Today, we're delving into a topic that frequently grabs headlines but remains shrouded in mystery for many: economic sanctions. With the ongoing escalation of the situation in Palestine, uncertainties abound regarding the global policy consequences that various countries affected may encounter. There's speculation that certain Muslim nations might impose substantial restrictions with countries involved. In this video, we will examine the role of economic sanctions during times of conflict, their impact on international trade, and the ways in which these financial measures mold the global landscape. To begin, let's delve into the concept of economic sanctions. Economic sanctions represent a non-military strategy employed by one nation to exert pressure on another, compelling it to alter its policies. These tactics encompass a spectrum of actions, including trade limitations, asset freezes, and travel prohibitions, all with the goal of destabilizing a country's economic foundation. Economic sanctions come in various forms, and they can be imposed by a single country or a group of countries with the backing of international organizations like the United Nations. Unilateral sanctions, like those imposed by the United States, are generally more targeted, whereas multilateral sanctions tend to be broader in scope, carrying more significant economic consequences. While economic sanctions are seen as a diplomatic alternative to war, they are often promoted by public pressure or personal vendettas of the world leaders. The main objective is to pressure an adversary into submitting to the demands of the imposing nation without direct military intervention. Sanctions can paralyze a country's economy, making it difficult to fund military activities or sustain a war. The consequences of sanctions on targeted nations can be severe. As we've seen in places like Iran and North Korea, economic sanctions can lead to currency devaluation, hyperinflation, and severe economic hardships for the civilian population. Critics argue that the intended effects on the government often hit the ordinary citizens harder. Similarly, we can see with the Israel-Hamas conflicts, protests all around the world are posing significant pressure on the governments and UN to impose bans and sanctions on Israel. But no one can actually predict whether the Muslim countries who openly stand with the Palestinians will impose sanctions on Israel or not. One thing that could be a concern for Israel is if the Arab countries and Russia limit or stop their oil supply to them. Needless to say, sanctions often focus on specific industries and entities. For instance, in the case of Iran, we've witnessed restrictions on the energy sector, which significantly impacted oil exports. These sanctions are enforced through a complex web of regulatory bodies and financial institutions. While sanctions are designed to have a political impact, they also have far-reaching economic consequences. Financial institutions, international trade, and global supply chains can be severely disrupted. Trade partners of the sanctioned nation may also experience setbacks, leading to a ripple effect across the global economy. An exemplary case is the economic sanctions imposed on Russia in response to its actions in Ukraine. These sanctions have not only limited Russia's ability to access international financial markets, but have also impacted the European Union, one of Russia's largest trading partners. As we can see, there are talks around Middle Eastern countries imposing sanctions on Israel for war crimes against the Gazan civilians. If there were sanctions to be imposed, how would Israel survive? Generally, nations targeted by economic sanctions employ various strategies to mitigate their effects. They may seek alternative trading partners, engage in barter agreements, or even use cryptocurrency to minimize the restrictions. These creative responses can, however, complicate the intended outcomes of the sanctions. The global financial system plays a pivotal role in the effectiveness of economic sanctions. With the United States having a dominant presence in international finance, its control over the flow of funds through the global banking system gives it significant leverage in implementing and enforcing sanctions. Sanctions can bring about unexpected consequences. In some cases, they have driven nations to become more self-reliant, invest in domestic industries, and reduce their dependence on Western markets. This may lead to long-term shifts in global economic power. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, the use of economic sanctions continues to evolve. The future of sanctions will be shaped by emerging technologies, financial innovations, and changing geopolitical dynamics. The effectiveness of sanctions will continue to be a topic of debate until the current crisis is put to stop. What we can conclude is that while economic sanctions offer an alternative to military conflict, Their consequences on international trade and finance are complex and far-reaching. As the world continues to debate on these intricate issues, it's very important that investors understand the role of sanctions in warfare and their implications on the global economic landscape. Being aware of world affairs can give you the advantage of planning your investments carefully. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of economic sanctions, and we hope you found this video informative. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. We'll see you in the next video.